There were a few other things I wanted to discuss about my eyewitness account at the International Criminal Court preparatory committee meetings in 2001, I think are important. First of all, when I went into the meeting, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't an ambassador like everybody else because it was a meeting that was closed to all observers. For instance, no United Nations organizations or NGOs were allowed in this meeting. You had to be the chief ambassador of a country to be in there. It was a mistake. I was in there, as I had stated previously. What I wanted to make clear was, from the time I entered the room, I didn't know what to do, so I asked a few of the representative ambassadors that from countries from Africa, what do I do here? And I assume they were from Africa because some of the faceplates stated they were from Africa countries. They had French accents, and they were black. So I said to the guy sitting next to me, what do I do? And he looked at me and he said, well, just go over there, get a bunch, as many papers as you can, sit down over here. And he pointed to the seat next to him. And he said, just look like you're busy. And that's it. And the entire time I was in that meeting, the guy sitting next to me from the African country, and I forget which one exactly it was, he was just sitting there and he was like doodling. I was really shocked, because I was taking all the notes, as many notes as I possibly can. I was reading the papers. If I had a tape recorder, I would have really preferred that. I was amazed at what I was actually hearing and seeing in that meeting, as I stated. And this guy sitting next to me, who was an ambassador from an African nation, was sitting there, and he was doodling. He was making pictures and faces and all kinds of little doodling things. The one thing he wasn't doing is paying any attention whatsoever about human rights. And I think one of his countries was probably one of the most problematic in Africa that I remember. I said to myself something like, oh, he's from that country. Oh my God, and he's sitting there doodling. No wonder why they have so many human rights problems over there. Anyway, and then, as I stated, Richard Holbrooke was sitting directly across from me. He was to the left. The Israel ambassador from Israel was to the right of Mr. Holbrooke. And then the representative from Spain, she had straight hair, shoulder length, with like glasses or like square, all the way in the corner to the left of me in the corner chair. She stood up and she got very angry that there were a few countries that, like me, didn't like what she had to say. And she stood up very loud, and I have a photographic memory, and she said, quote, my country, Spain, thinks, well, what she said was, quote, my country, Spain, feels very strongly that if we give more money to finance the International Criminal Court, which was newly emergent at that time, it didn't exist yet, it didn't have the signatories, the number of signatories it needed. She said, my country, Spain, feels very strongly the more money we give the newly emergent ICC, the more control we feel we should get over the verdicts of guilt and innocence, and those are her words, guilt of innocence or innocence, and future judicial appointments. And a few countries, are like three, that said that, they were shocked by it, as I was. And Richard Holbrooke and the ambassador from Israel were just sitting there laughing. They're giggling like a bunch of schoolgirls. I was quite shocked. And they were like laughing, like the expressions on their faces said to me, as a international sociological honor student, said to me that they didn't take human rights or anything seriously. They were giggling like a bunch of schoolgirls, anything important. And they should have said something or intervened. If I was an ambassador, I would have right away said something to the ambassador from Spain that, this is not legal. You don't get verdicts for you don't bribe court verdicts and for future judicial appointments. Anyway, the only thing I did not hear out of that meeting was a price for a verdict. It came really close because there were a lot of countries there, Britain, I forget, but there were close allies of the United States, and they said things to Spain like, well, quote, how much do you think we would have to give to get more control over a guilty verdict? Things like that. Discourse like that came up. That's why Mr. Karadzic, Mr. Mladic, Mr. Hadjic, and not only Bosnian Serbs, but everybody sitting in a jail cell in The Hague should not be tried. They should be returned to their countries at once, and that place should be closed down. When you hear someone, when you eyewitnesses, I did, countries that were statutes and part of this newly emergent International Criminal Court saying in a meeting, with how much would I have to pay to get more control over Radovan Karadzic's guilty verdict. You know that it's corrupt, and that's what I want to say. And I'm shocked that CNN and no news media has come to me yet for an interview about this, because I think it's extremely important, because an international criminal court is only as good for humanity and humanity's future posterity as it is truthful. And I'll tell you one thing, the ICC is certainly corrupt, and the ICTY, International Criminal Court for Yugoslavia, that came before, is even probably more so, because it was the same people there in the meeting, more or less financially feeding it, doing the same thing. So therefore, that's why I strongly feel that there should be an investigation, and it should be shut down. And if any of those people sitting in the jail cell in The Hague are to be tried, they should be tried in another court, a court in their own country, or because of this technical difficulty and illegality that the court is in contempt of itself, their charges should be dismissed. Thank you.
Hi, this is Miss Jill Louise Starr. I apologize for the poor picture quality, but I'm going to use my cell phone to finish the reading on the book, The Bosnian Model of Al-Qaeda Terrorism, Modus Operandi, that Darko Trifunovic and myself wrote back in 1999. Let's see where I left off. On October 18th, 1990, general elections were held in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The majority of voters elected representatives from the SDA, SDS, and HDZ, giving these three parties a total of 200 seats in the Bosnian and Herzegovina Congress, along with other parties holding 38 seats. At the session of the Bosnian and Herzegovina Congress on October 15th, 1991, delegates of the SDA and HDZ adopted a memorandum of sovereignty regarding Bosnia and Herzegovina after the Serb SDS delegates left the session. On October 24th, 1991, Serb delegates of the Bosnian and Herzegovina Congress established a Congress of Bosnian and Herzegovina Serbs. On November 9th and 10th, 1991, a referendum of Bosnian and Herzegovina Serbs was held to decide the issue of remaining in the Yugoslav Federation. 96% of the Serbs in Bosnia and Herzegovina voted to stay in the Yugoslav Federation. Although the results of the referendum were made public, the Bosnian and Herzegovina Cabinet and the Bosnian and Herzegovina Congress, without Serb representatives, decided itself on December 20th, 1991, to request an official recognition of an independent Bosnian and Herzegovina state, which succeeded from the European Union. On January 9, 1992, the Serbs in Bosnia and Herzegovina declared the Serbian Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. On February 29th and March 1992, the Croats and Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina organized a referendum for independence of Bosnia and Herzegovina, where 63% of the population, matching the percentage of Croats and Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina, voted for independence. Even this percentage, however, did not represent two-thirds majority. Between early August and November 21st, 1995, after a massive bombing by NATO aircraft and combined forces of A, B, and H, the Muslim Bosnian portion of the army during the war, HVO, the Croatian Defense Council, and the Croatian Army began a massive aggression against the Serbian Republic, Republika Srpska in Bosnia. In this invasion, they ethnically cleansed the areas of Mount Ozren and Western Krajina, inhabited almost exclusively by Serbs. Period. Over 100,000 Serbs were expelled or killed from the towns of Drvar, Petrovac, Sanski, Most, Krupa, Sipova, Mrkanic, Grad, and parts of Banja Luka. Period. Several thousand homes of Serbs were completely destroyed and all their property expelled, and the Croats and Bosnian Muslim armies, Third Corps, expelled all Serbian civilians. The text below was published on October 1991 that I'm going to read in the Bosnian Muslim magazine entitled Vox, VOX. It's entitled, quote, Political Platform of the Muslim National Council, quote. It says, Brother Muslims, with your permission and the help of Allah, the Muslim National Council has been appointed to achieve the age-long dream of a pure Muslim state, to create a pure Muslim state in the Balkan Peninsula. History teaches us Muslims that we are a nation without an identity, a nation without a state of its own, and a nation without a bright future. Others have always written our history, studied our origins, taught us what we were to think and believe. Our Agus and Bays kept telling us so. The West kept telling us, quote, it is not yet time, have patience, brother Muslims, end quote, period. How much longer, brother Muslims, shall we wait? I hold the same view that truth is eternal and unchangeable, and the truth is, brothers, that every fifth man in the world is a Muslim, and this applies to the Balkans as well. The Muslim National Council in Bosnia and Herzegovina was not founded with a pomp like the Serbian national councils in Srbnin, Banja Luka, Ozren, with the slogan, only Concord, only unity save the Serbs, and the Serbian Democratic Party for Croatia in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are only parallel for them, while they exist, so will the Muslim National Council. Radinac has not been chosen as the center for this council without reason. It was the geographical center of the Muslims in the former Yugoslavia, and that region still bears the extremely negative marks of the war. The time has come to start with the homogenization of Muslims, they went on, this Muslim council said, quote, Muslims as in other, we must do as the Muslims in all other nations have done. And what has been achieved after these elections in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Muslims of Bosnia asked? They said, we are still being dismissed. We are people that do not have pensions. We are poor people, and we have no prospects. The, quote, MNV is here to draw conclusions. One of our main tasks will be to establish a pure Bosnia and Herzegovina sovereign state of pure Muslims and other nationals who live in it. The Serbs and Croats cannot have 2 or 3 states and ask the Muslims not to have one at all. We shall organize a rally during Baram, B-A-I-R-A-M, in the neighborhood of Radinac, where we shall invite Izetbegovic, a terrorist named Zulfikarapasic, spelled Z-U-L-F-I-C-A-R-P-A-C-I-C, terrorist named Filipovic, a terrorist named Mucic, M-U-H-I-C, and they also invited, Dr. Karadzic will also be invited. It will not be a rally at which we shall throw flowers. The Muslims will take a clear political stand, they stated in this decree. They said, quote, this is a unique opportunity. This is a time that will not come again. We are again rate and still divided. The priority of goals to the Muslim National Council, MNV, would be to 1. Abolish the State Security Service, named DB. Explanation. The State Security Service of Bosnia-Herzegovina would currently employ approximately 1,062 agents, 90% are Serbs. We would like the Party of Democratic Action to pass a law unconditionally to disband the State's Security Service, for the Party of Democratic Action to pass a law on denationalization, and for the confiscated property of Serbs to be restored to the Muslim citizens of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. For the Bosnian Muslim Assembly of Bosnia and Herzegovina to pass and to start proceedings immediately to draw up a new constitution in which the Muslim nation will be the only pure bearer of sovereignty and power in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Declaration of the Sovereign Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina states, quote, the Declaration of the Sovereignty of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina is a basic constitutional act of Muslims and all educated and reasonable Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina. A man named Kitabun, K-I-T-A-B-U-N, this is a long name, I can't really pronounce it or spell it out, stated the Bosnia 2. Bosnia and Herzegovina will be the only Muslim sovereign state, and the Muslims and other nations will bow to it. It is the state of origin of the Muslims, and the entire Balkan Peninsula will be. The sovereignty of the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina is indivisible, and its territorial integrity is inviolable. 3. Concurrently with the independence of the Republic of Slovenia from Yugoslavia, the Muslim Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina will immediately proclaim itself an independent state. 4. The Muslim nation, which is the bearer of pure sovereignty in all of Bosnia and Herzegovina, recognizes only cultural autonomy of Croats. Serbs and other nations must be discharged and ethnically cleansed. 5. The citizens of the sovereign state, Muslim state of Bosnia and Herzegovina will also, quote, have a say in its defense affairs based on patriotic fellowship, patriotism, and Muslim coexistence. 6. The Muslim state of Bosnia and Herzegovina, in its origin of Muslims, will be comprised of Muslims and only other nations of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina Serbs and other nations on the basis of reciprocity, which is the guarantee recognized by international law in a state ruled by law, human rights, and human freedoms. 7. The Declaration of Muslim Sovereign State Sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina will be proclaimed by, quote, the people at a referendum by a simple majority vote. I'm going to stop here, and I will read the rest shortly. Thank you for joining me.